a small village nestled in the mountains of ancient India, there lived a wise and renowned monk named Bhante. His presence was calming, his words were few, but his silence spoke volumes. People traveled from far and wide to seek his guidance on matters of the heart and mind. They were drawn not only to his wisdom, but to the serenity he embodied, a serenity that came from mastering the art of silence. One day, a young man named Arun arrived at Bhante's monastery. Arun was restless, always busy, and constantly seeking external validation for his achievements. Despite his success, he was never satisfied. The noise of the world and his own mind seemed to drown out any peace he might have found. "Bhante," Arun said after being granted an audience, "I have everything, wealth, status, and recognition, but my heart feels heavy and my mind is never at peace. I've heard that you have mastered the art of silence. Can you teach me how to find peace in this noisy world?" Bhante smiled gently and gestured for Arun to follow him. They walked in silence through the monastery's gardens, the soft breeze rustling the leaves, the birds singing in the distance. Arun's mind buzzed with questions, but Bhante remained quiet. Finally, after what felt like hours, they reached a secluded spot by a serene pond. Bhante gestured for Arun to sit down and simply said, "Observe." Confused but obedient, Arun sat by the pond and watched. The surface of the water was calm, reflecting the blue sky and trees around it. As time passed, Arun began to notice how the stillness of the water mirrored the stillness in the world around him. Even the sounds of nature felt like part of the silence, not a disruption of it. After a while, Bhante spoke. "Arun, do you see how the water remains calm despite everything happening around it? The wind may blow, animals may come and go, but the pond remains still unless disturbed. Your mind is like this pond. It is naturally calm, but when you allow the winds of the world, your desires, your fears, and your endless thoughts to stir it, peace becomes distant." Arun frowned. "But how can I remain calm in the midst of my life's chaos? The world is full of noise, and my responsibilities are many. How can I silence the world?" Bhante smiled again. "The world cannot be silenced, but you can learn to silence yourself. True silence does not come from avoiding noise, but from stilling the mind in the midst of it. The art of silence is not about muting the world. It is about finding the stillness within." Arun pondered this for a moment, still struggling to grasp its full meaning. The test of silence. That evening, Bhante assigned Arun a simple task. For the next 7 days, speak only when necessary. Observe the world in silence, and watch your thoughts without reacting to them. Come back to me after 7 days. Eager to find peace, Arun accepted the challenge. The first day was difficult. His mind was like a raging storm, with thoughts constantly crashing against each other. He wanted to talk, to share his frustrations, and to ask for reassurance. But he remembered Bhante's instructions and remained silent. By the third day, Arun began to notice things he hadn't before. The subtle details of the world around him, the chirping of crickets, the way the sunlight filtered through the trees, and the gentle sway of the flowers in the garden. He realized that in his usual hurry, he had missed these simple but profound moments. His silence allowed him to truly see and hear the world. On the 5th day, Arun's internal struggle lessened. His thoughts were still there, but they no longer seemed as loud or pressing. He started to understand that it wasn't the world that was noisy, it was his mind. The more he observed without reacting, the quieter his mind became. By the end of the 7th day, Arun felt a calm he had never known before. He returned to Bhante, eager to share his experience. The power of listening. Bhante listened patiently as Arun recounted his journey through silence. When Arun finished, the monk asked, "What did you learn?" Arun thought for a moment. "I learned that silence is not just the absence of noise, but the space where true peace resides. When I stopped speaking and reacting, I could finally hear what was really important. I listened to the world, but more importantly, I listened to myself." Bhante nodded. "Exactly. Silence is not emptiness, but fullness. It is in silence that we can truly hear the whispers of our heart and the wisdom of the universe. When you learn to be comfortable in silence, you learn to listen deeply, to others, to nature, and to yourself." Bhante then shared a teaching. Many people think silence is passive, but in truth, it is an active practice. It requires mindfulness and patience. The more you practice silence, the more you will find that peace is not something you need to chase. It is already within you, waiting to be uncovered. Arun felt a deep sense of understanding. He had spent so long trying to fill the silence with noise, accomplishments, praise, and external distractions that he had forgotten how to simply be. The final lesson. Before Arun left the monastery, Bhante gave him one final lesson. He led Arun to a large tree at the edge of the monastery grounds. The tree was ancient, its branches wide and its roots deep. "This tree has stood here for hundreds of years," Bhante said. "It grows silently, yet it is full of life. It does not rush, it does not compete, and yet it reaches great heights. In the same way, you must learn to grow in silence. You do not need to rush through life, chasing success or recognition. When you are rooted in silence, your growth will happen naturally, without force." Arun looked at the tree, understanding that it was a symbol of the life he now aspired to live, calm, patient, and grounded in silence. "Remember," Bhante said, "the art of silence is not something you master in a single day or even a week. It is a lifelong practice, but the more you embrace it, the more you will find that silence is not something to fear. It is where your true self resides." The return to the world. When Arun returned to his life in the village, he was a changed man. The noise of the world was still there. People still talked, responsibilities still piled up, and distractions still beckoned. But Arun had found something far more valuable: the ability to remain calm in the midst of it all. He no longer felt the need to react to every situation or to fill every moment with words. He had learned the art of silence, and in that silence, he had found peace. From that day forward, whenever life became overwhelming, Arun would sit quietly, just as he had by the pond, and let the storm pass. He understood that silence was not a retreat from the world, but a way of living in harmony with it. Conclusion: the wisdom of silence. The story of Arun and Bhante teaches us that silence is a powerful tool for inner peace and growth. In a world filled with noise and constant activity, the ability to embrace silence can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. By mastering the art of silence, we can learn to listen more deeply, react less impulsively, and find peace in even the most chaotic situations. The art of silence is a journey, one that requires patience and mindfulness. But as Arun discovered, it is in silence that we find our true selves. And in that discovery, we unlock the wisdom and peace that has always been within us.